after the break. We got callers on the line, and we've also been joined by a very special guest who's on the line with us as well. Mr. Adeyomi Azikiwe is on the Detroit Martin Luther King Committee, the event that's going to be taking place at the Central United Methodist Church on Monday. And Mr. Azikiwe, thank you for joining us, and good afternoon to you.
Well, good afternoon to you, and it's good to talk to you again.
Absolutely. Hey, what's going on the King holiday at the Central United Methodist Church?
Well, this is our 15th year, the 15th annual Dr. Martin Luther King Day Rally and March. It starts at Central United Methodist Church, which is located in downtown Detroit on Woodward Avenue at East Adams. We start out with a rally at noon. Our keynote speaker will be Reverend Dr. Bernard Lafayette of Emory University in Atlanta. He is a former special assistant to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Mm-hmm.
He worked with him for many years, including Dr. King's final campaign, which was the Poor People's Campaign, that was, of course, part of the reason why he was, in my opinion, assassinated in 1968.
I agree. We just had that conversation a little bit earlier. Let me ask you this. Do you agree with our earlier discussion, and that is that Dr. King, unfortunately, has been minimized by far too many people in this country, and the full breadth of what he represented, what he stood for, what he spoke about is really mostly unknown to a lot, if not most, Americans?
I agree wholeheartedly, and that is due to a number of factors. In part, the government isolation of Dr. King during the last year of his life, when he came out solidly against U.S. intervention in Vietnam. Mm-hmm. He also linked the struggle against racism and segregation to the need of eliminating poverty completely in the United States. So he became a very dangerous figure, particularly in 1967 and 1968. If we look at the historical context of what was going on during that time period, where there were rebellions taking place all across the United States, there was a burgeoning anti-war movement. So he became a central figure in terms of the U.S. government's counterintelligence program to eliminate him. And since his death, there's been a concerted effort to distort his actual legacy.
Mm-hmm. How so? Where, in what areas has this attempt to distort taken place?
Well, they reduced his involvement in the struggle to one of an individual. And Dr. King was the co-founder of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, was formed in 1957. He was also the head of the Montgomery Improvement Association, which organized the Montgomery bus boycott in 1955 and 56, which initiated the modern-day civil rights movement. Also, he went to jail dozens of times in the South. He also brought the civil rights movement to the North in 1966 in Chicago with a open housing campaign. He led the Detroit Walk to Freedom in June of 1963, mm-hmm. which was a large civil rights demonstration up until that time period in the history of the United States, right here in the city of Detroit. So these are some of the aspects of how they reduced him just to one speech, session of a speech at the March on Washington in 1963. But he was much more than a journalist. He was an activist and he was an organizer.
Mr. Azikiwe, I have said for years that America and the American ideal, the American dream, if you will, has been betrayed by its embracing and its history of chattel slavery, Jim Crow, and racism. And that has undermined any serious attempts to have a democratic and fair society. Would you agree with that? And is that in keeping with the Kingian philosophy?
Yes. Dr. King, towards the end of his life, this is why he organized the Poor People's Campaign. He recognized that you had to bring together people in a staunch program seeking to achieve broad-based social justice in the United States. There had to be a guaranteed annual income. There had to be guaranteed full employment. There had to be guaranteed national health insurance. These are the type of social programs that are needed to make the United States a great nation. When Trump talks about making America great again, at what period is he talking about going back? Is he talking about going back to the 19th century, to the 1940s, 1950s, where African Americans were subjected to legalized segregation? I don't want to go back there. And I don't think any black person in this country would want to go back there who is in their right mind.
I would even take it back to Andrew Jackson. That seems to be his hero, the author of the Trail of Tears and Indian Removal Act. Let me go back to the phone calls and get another phone call real quick from Thomas on line 4. Hey, Thomas, thanks for calling. You're on with Mr. Abayomi Ezekwe.
Hello to you both, gentlemen.
Hello.
I want you to remember Black Wall Street. Now, Martin Luther King, at the time when Martin Luther King was doing what he was doing, we had brothers on another side of the street that was doing something totally different. Obviously, they're not going to get the notoriety that Martin Luther King is going to get. Now, when Black Wall Street was totally destroyed, there were no protests from black people, preachers, or nobody, okay? And then as we move forward, we talk about the churches and all these kind of entities. In a way, they kind of hinder progress. Okay, now while we all talking about, well, we want the white man to treat us fair, we want to eat in a restaurant, we want to ride on the front of their bus, how come we can't make our own buses? Mm-hmm. I like soul food. Why do I have to eat in
And Thomas, let me jump in, Thomas, because when you say the other side of the street, are you talking about Malcolm X and the more militant movement?
I'm talking about Malcolm X, Stokely Carmichael, Eldridge Cleaver.
Right.
I'm talking about all the brothers that said we need to do ourselves. We don't need to try to beg to get included with Caucasian. Now, Martin Luther King was trying to stop a race war, okay? Because after Rosewood and Wall Street, black people was ready to go. But Martin Luther King said, no, it's about love. And if you go in a restaurant and they don't want to feed you, and somebody come up and hit you in your head, just bow your head. If you go outside and Will Connors got his dogs, and them dogs trying to bite your gonads or bite your stomach, just hold your hands out. Don't touch that dog.
All right. You know what? And we got other callers, Thomas. I appreciate your call. I'm going to turn over to Mr. Ezekwe because that, at the crux of that, is an important question. There are those who want to know if he was too nonviolent. There are others who say by the time the end of their lives came, Malcolm X and Martin Luther King were really converging on their philosophies. What is your take on that, Mr. Ezekwe?
Yeah, they were. And people have to remember, Dr. King was assassinated largely at the aegis of the United States government. So was Malcolm X. And he's referring to the Tulsa riots of 1921. Mm-hmm. Those were not isolated incidents. Where Dr. King was born in Atlanta, they had a similar situation in 1906. We can look at what happened after World War I with the so-called Red Summer, where black communities were attacked across the United States in Washington, D.C. and Chicago. So what happened in Tulsa in 1921 was not isolated. And people like Stokely Carmichael, for example, came out of the civil rights movement. They worked with Dr. King, and they both agreed in terms of U.S. policy towards Vietnam. They were together on those questions. And Dr. King was only 39 years old when he died. So these are important factors to take into consideration.
I've said many times, too, Mr. Ezekwe, that when the Martin Luther King holiday comes, we should do much more than listen to the I Have a Dream speech, go to a chicken dinner, and then go home and watch television. It's really an opportunity for us to learn and study this man. How will your event on Monday help people to learn more about Dr. King and about his true legacy?
We draw on the actual social justice, civil rights, peace legacy of Dr. King. And we're going to have Dr. Bernard Lafayette as our keynote speaker, but we also have a number of other speakers who are involved in local struggles here in the city of Detroit around housing, around water shutoffs, the burgeoning problem of elevated lead levels in Detroit among children, the issues involving mass incarceration of African Americans. So these are the issues that we are working on today in 2018. And this event is really a rallying point for activists throughout southeastern Michigan. We usually have anywhere between 1,000 and 1,500 participants in the rally. And then we have a march at 1:30 through downtown Detroit that focuses on these issues of foreclosure and eviction, mass incarceration, property tax foreclosures, water shutoffs, gentrification. These are the issues of the 21st century. Then we conclude at St. John's Episcopal Church, which is just on Woodward and I-75. The march concludes there, and we have a community meal that's free. It's prepared by the Wobbly Kitchen, which is an activist group in Detroit that feeds the homeless every week. And then we have a culture program that's going to be coordinated by Aurora Harris, who's a local poet, as well as a instructor at the University of Michigan. So it's going to be a day of activities, of reflection, but also of rejuvenation.
And a day of education, I would say, with all the good information you're going to be sharing. Exactly how can people participate? Do they need to register or just show up?
People need to show up at noon at Central United Methodist Church on Woodward Avenue in East Adams, downtown. It's free. It's open to the public. People are welcome to bring their own signs, their own placards, and enjoy the speaking. If you can, if you're able to participate in the demonstration. The weather's warmed up a lot over the last few days. And also to participate in our community meal at St. John's Episcopal Church on Woodward and I-75, as well as our cultural presentations, which will conclude that day.